Hi, Sally Walker here, your hormone and slow age expert. So have you heard the term post-menopausal hormone triad? Probably not, because it's something I've invented. Yes, I came up with that name, and it is very important. So it's all about three hormones, and these three hormones that desperately need to be balanced, supported after menopause. And the three hormones are estrogen, insulin, and cortisol. They're the three hormones, okay? And keeping these in check, keeping these in balance are going to help you have the greatest time in the years after menopause. So let's have a look at these hormones. Okay, so estrogen, that's the easiest of the three to do something about, because we have to support this. We have to replace some estrogen. So after menopause, we've lost copious amounts of our estrogen because the ovaries have stopped producing estrogen. So now we need to replace some. But we're never going to replace the 70% that we lose with menopause, but we're going to replace some so we function better. And as I've said in another video, I do worry that many ladies are possibly replacing too much. So we need to keep an eye on that. We need to keep a control on that. But have a check that video and you'll be able to get some answers there. So, but replacing estrogen is absolutely essential for, I would say, every lady as they go past menopause. The other two, so these two are more challenging. They're not just as easy as saying, okay, I'm going to have some estrogen patches, I'm going to have estrogen gel, or however, it's individual for lady to lady. But insulin is the easiest of the two to do something about because it's all to do with blood sugar. So blood sugar is all to do with the foods that we're eating, isn't it? So things like carbohydrate, which will end as glucose. So decreasing the amount of carbohydrate that we're eating, especially the processed carbohydrates, the starches and the root vegetables, the rices, all these kind of things, the bread, pastas, that kind of thing, yeah? That would be a good thing to do. And then we could do the time restricted eating, which is also called intermittent fasting. And the latest is demonstrating quite clearly that if you finish your evening meal, your latest, the last meal of the day, as early as possible before 6 p.m, the better your blood sugar will be. Absolutely. So that kind of thing will be quite good, yes. Now, we could also make sure we've got more muscle tissue. That's really important as well, because muscle tissue is going to decrease our blood sugar, and anything that decreases blood glucose is going to decrease insulin. So insulin is your fat storing hormone, isn't it? And it's also the hormone which is going to increase your risk for insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, all of these things which are very easy to get once we pass the age of 45. Yes, I know that supporting estrogen is actually going to assist your insulin functioning better, and studies show quite clearly that ladies that do replace estrogen have a lesser risk of developing type 2 diabetes. But it's still there, and you're never, as I said, you're never going to be able to replace all the estrogen that we're not producing anymore. So it's going to help, but you've got to do the lifestyle changes. You've got to do the foods. You've got to do the when you're eating, all this kind of thing, yeah? And build muscle tissue. Build muscle tissue. Make sure that you've got loads of muscle tissue. That's a really important thing to do. And so the other little thing here is cortisol. So we'll talk more about cortisol as such, but just know this, cortisol increases blood glucose. That's its most important job. So that means that you need to have focus on cortisol. And many people's problem with blood glucose is not necessarily their foods. It's more to do with the increased production of cortisol. So why do we increase the production of cortisol? Well, basically, cortisol is trying to help you produce more energy so you can fix whatever it is that's stressing you. And the stress can be physical, mental, emotional, makes absolutely no difference. If your brain is registering some kind of stress, it's going to increase the production of cortisol to break down muscle tissue, bone tissue, skin tissue. That's not very good, but to release glucose to lift your blood glucose levels. So all your little cells can produce more energy so you can fix whatever it is you need to fix. So cortisol is really important. It's a very important hormone, but we don't want it to be out of control. We don't want all the tissue breakdown. We don't have enough estrogen to build it up again, do we? And we don't want the tissue breakdown, do we? So we don't want the increase in blood glucose, because that's going to increase the risk for problems with insulin. Yeah. So that's a biggie, isn't it? And then also, the stressors could be physical, working too many hours, late hours, over exercising, things like that. Could be poor sleep, that's another one. Could be that mental, emotional, and that's more challenging than anything else. You know, the regurgitation that's going on. We tend to be a little bit more OCD when we lose our estrogens. So we don't fix these emotional stresses as well as we did previously, which creates more stress, which creates more cortisol, which creates more blood sugar, which creates more insulin. Those two hormones work together, yeah? And replacing estrogen is not going to fix the problem, or replacing more estrogen is not going to fix the problem. You've got to work with these two hormones, insulin and cortisol. Another reason that cortisol is produced, extra produced, is inflammation, because it is the body's major anti-inflammatory. So if you have inflammation, and unfortunately as we age, we tend to get more inflammation, and much of it is chronic and it's silent, so we don't know it's there, but the brain does, so it's increasing the production of cortisol. And cortisol's a multitasker. It doesn't say, oh, I'm just going to fix the inflammation today. No. It's also going to break down your muscle tissue, bone tissue, your skin tissue to release glucose so you can fix whatever is stressing you. So you're going to have more tissue breakdown when you have more inflammation. You're going to have more cortisol. And replacing more estrogen is not going to fix the problem. This is why I worry. Okay, so you've got to look at these hormones. As I said, this is the triad, but there could be other hormones which are also problematic. You know, things like thyroid, things like human growth hormone, things like testosterone. They could also be part of it, but these three are central: estrogen, insulin, cortisol. You've got to fix your lifestyle. Happy hormones, happy life.